off. So I have a bead stopper on either side. So the first thing you would do, obviously, is go ahead and pre-design the design that you want. The second thing you're going to want to do is string them on your wire. And then the third thing that you're going to want to do is decide on the length that you desire for your necklace to be. Now let me grab my bead board. And you can grab a ruler if you don't have a bead board. And I'm just going to pull this out real quick and show you how to measure your necklace and in order to cut your chain for the size that you want. So as you can see, hopefully here, what you're going to do, if you have a focal like I do, then you want to put it right on the 0 of your bead board. In fact, let me grab my chain. And I've also already pre-cut my chain. Now, as I said, if you have a focal, put that right on the 0. If you don't have a focal, you simply would just grab your necklace, make sure it's even on the top, where your beads meet at the top, and then kind of pull it to where you can find your center. And then take that center and put it right at your 0. So the desired length I have in mind for this necklace is a choker. And a choker is right around 16 to 16.5 inches. They can be smaller. Some people make them 15 inches. But this one's 16, designed with the dangle. So it comes just at the neckline, but not really up on the neckline. It kind of comes right below at the neckline. So I want it to be right at the 8 because 8 and 8 is 16, right? So if my beads end here at this 3 1/4, then right at the quarter mark, I start my chain, I lay it down. I would then want to cut my chain at the 8. Therefore, you're going to have a 16 inch. Okay. Okay, so now that we determined that I had already pre-cut and we just measured that and we saw that I was right around a link or two above 8 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two chains together and see that, yeah, that one side is 2 links too big. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my heavy duty, not my flush cutters, but my heavier duty cutters here. And I am going to cut off these last 2 links of my chain. So there we go. We don't need that. Okay, so now I'm going to put out my chain link and just make sure that they line up and they are the same size. And we're good. Okay, so one other thing to bear in mind before we go any further with sizing. You have to take into account the size of your clasp and your wire guardian and your jump rings when you're sizing. I'll grab my bead board again. And I'll put my clasp up here. And my clasp is right around 3/4 inches by itself. And then I know that the wire guardian and the jump rings, it's going to add another about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, right? So right there in my findings, the finishing part of the jewelry, your findings, that is going to be another inch. So that is why I cut those other 2 links off, because I really wanted a 16 inch. And so that being directly at the 8, the chain ending at the 8, as you saw, this is now going to be around probably 16 1/4, 16 1/2. So if you're really looking to precisely measure an exact size, please be sure before you're putting it together that you're really measuring all of the components, because the wire guards and your clasp and your jump rings, they will add length. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay, so now that we have beaded our necklace, we can go ahead and add our chain and finishings. So what you do is you're going to grab one of your wire, you're going to grab one of your crimp beads or your crimp tubes, whichever you're using, and go ahead and feed it on your wire, and then just let it fall down. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab your wire guardian. Now, if you've never seen a wire guardian, let me pull it up here. I'll use the back of my hand. See if you can see that. You see how it's like a tiny little horseshoe? So that's what they look like. Okay. So you're going to grab your wire guardian and you're going to push your wire. There's a hole on either side. You're going to go ahead and feed it up one hole, up and over the top of the horseshoe, and back down. There's a hole on the other side. Back down that hole. Just like that there. Grab the tail and pull it a little, and that's what you should have. Just like that. Now what we're going to do is grabbing that tail, you're going to grab a piece of your chain and go ahead and find your last link of chain, feed it through that tail, and go ahead and let it drop down. And then if you need to pull it through, pull it through. And now this is what we have. You see that? How the chain just went and looped right around that wire guardian. Okay? Now we're going to go ahead and grab our tail, grab our crimp bead, and we're going to thread that through the crimp bead. And then I always like to go through the first bead. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I like to do it just to give it a little extra strength and durability. So I fed that tail through my crimp bead and then through my first bead. Now you're going to keep a hold to the tail and go ahead, hold your chain, and then just go ahead and we're just going to pull, just like that. And we're going to pull it down. And we're going to keep pulling until our beads are snug and tight, but not too tight. Now, let me stop right there and mention another tip. When you're doing your finishing on your jewelry, you never want to lay it out like this. And the reason you don't want to do that is because if you do that when you're pulling, you're crimping your tail and you're crimping and finishing off your beads, once you go like this, they will not be able to move. And if you use a lot of glass beads or crystals like I do, I assure you they will break, because the more friction that the beads have, that they're rubbing on each other, if there's no movement, the beads will break. So what you're going to want to do is, as you noticed, I had my necklace just like it would be worn on the neck, kind of in a half circle like that. You want to try to keep it that way the best you can when you're finishing off your jewelry. That way you know you're not pulling your beads too tight. So you want them to have a little bit of fluidity, right, and movement like this. See? So they're moving, and that's what I want them to do. I don't want them to be stiff. So now that we've given you that tip, let's go back and we're going to grab our tail and hold your tail. Okay, now we have it up where we want it to be. And go ahead and use your fingers, squeeze the wire connector together. And we'll grab our crimping tool and we'll go ahead and crimp our bead. Or crimp our crimp tube. Or crimp bead, whichever we're using. Okay. So we're going to crimp it, and then we're going to turn it over, and then we crimp it again to fold it in half. Now we've crimped. We're going to go ahead and grab our flush cutters, and then go ahead and get rid of all that extra wire. Oops, that just flung across the room. And so there we go. Now, in order to cover this crimp up, I'm going to go ahead and grab a crimp cover. And these are 3 millimeters, by the way. The crimp covers here. Let me see if I can get that on the camera. Can you see that there? They're kind of like a bead, but they're open. And these are 3 millimeter, and these are in a silver to go with my necklace. And then you go ahead and put the crimp cover over the crimp bead, and you'll feel it snap in there. Okay? See if I can pull that up just like that. Now you're going to kind of take the chain in between your other 2 fingers and kind of try to hold it there. And then grab any plier that works for you, whether it is your chain nose pliers, your bent nose pliers. I even have some flat nose pliers over here. Whatever works for you. What I'm going to grab is what works for me, which is actually my crimps. And we're going to go ahead and close that crimp cover. And when we do that, guys, we're going to do it very slowly. Because if we do not do it nice and slow, what will happen is it will scrunch together. It'll go lopsided. It will not be flush. And believe me when I tell you, you don't want to be doing that. Good luck trying to get that crimp cover off without having to restring and rebead your entire necklace. I guarantee it. I've done it so many times, so you do not want to do that. And then you're going to want to go on the top and the bottom, and just you're going to keep going back and forth until you get your crimp nice and closed there. So that's what you have. And as you can see, we have our chain now with our wire guardian, a crimp cover with a crimp bead underneath of it, and you can not only not see the crimp, you can't see the wire. All of it disappeared. So it's a nice professional finish. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other side. And that's how we put our chain on with the wire guardian. Now, to finish off our necklace, we'll move on to the second to the last step, or the last step if you're not going to put it. I'm going to put a dangle on mine, so this will be the last step if you're not going to use a dangle. And so go ahead and grab a pair of chain nose and bent nose pliers. So I have bent nose and chain nose pliers. I'm going to grab my 6 millimeter jump ring. And I've already opened them. You're going to go ahead and find the last link of your chain. And you're going, I'm sorry, I just gelled again. And feed it through the jump ring. So the last link of your chain, we're going to put that on our jump ring and go ahead and grab our clasp, and any kind of clasp you use is fine. I'm just using a lobster clasp today. And go ahead and close our jump ring to where that's nice and tight and flush, to where nothing falls off. And that's what you should have. And now our jump ring is attached to our chain, attached to our clasp, and one side is finished. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take these other 2 jump rings and I am going to add them both to the end of the other side of my chain. So grab your chain, find the last link of your chain, go ahead and put the jump ring on, and then use your pliers, one in each hand, to go ahead and close those up nice and even. Now I'll grab my last jump ring. I'm going to add it to the jump ring I just put on there, and go ahead and close that up with both my pliers. Okay, and that's what we have. And if you don't intend to do a dangle, then you are finished. And that's what you should have. But because I'm going to add a dangle, we're almost done here. I am going to grab my dangle. I am going to open my jump ring and add it on that last jump ring right there and close it up. And let me get this stuff put to the side, guys, and then we'll see what we just did. I'll hang it on my little mannequin so you can see. So now this is what we just did, and as you can see, look at how professional that finish is, right? With the wire guardian and the chain, the crimp covers. It's a very professional look. You can't see anything. You can't see any wire. You can't see any crimp beads. And it's a very professional, strong finish to your jewelry. And I think this is really super cute. Necklace. It's very professional looking. And then we'll look at the back, and we have our cute little dangle at the back. So that is how we make a necklace that we beaded with beading wire and add it to chain. And that's what we have. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it to be informational, and hopefully you learned something, or maybe you were just inspired. Either way, that is what my purpose is to pay information forward, and I hope I explain things well so that you can understand and learn and have fun making jewelry.